Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Thursday the 20th of July. So before we look at the markets individually, let's just have a quick look at the risk events coming out today. So I'll put the right thing on here and switch over to the news here. So just looking at yesterday's, obviously inflation came down in the UK. I noticed that's a sort of having a bit of a knock-on effect worldwide. Actually, it's been brought up in a lot of other markets, and sort of this suggestion that central banks might slow up. The current expectation now is 0.25% as opposed to 0.5% increase when they next meet in 2 weeks' time. Not a lot of other data there. Let me just refresh this, put this up to date. There we go. So the housing starts and etc. coming in lower than expected, not a great deal of surprise. Australian data there, certainly surprising this morning. This is not really as much as they want a strong economy and a good workforce. This puts inflationary pressures on. Seeing the Aussie push up this morning on that basis. Later today, then we've got the weekly unemployment claims. Don't normally have too much on that one. The Philly Fed Manufacturing Index coming out there later at 1:30 at the same time actually. So not an existing home sales. None of these are really big movers, particularly when we've got the Fed meeting bearing upon us next Wednesday. Okay. Let's have a look at the markets in themselves. We'll start higher levels here. So the euro kicking around. It did have a little bit of a sell-off, and there's still scope for these to roll over. As mentioned yesterday, the weekly pivot. Well, it sort of pulled away from the weekly pivot quite quickly as soon as I mentioned that, only to sell back towards it. And it may be just somewhere where it's tracking at this stage. It's sort of just popping in lower highs through that lot. We'll see what he can do later. The pound certainly looks a little softer this morning. It's the correction yesterday was quite big on that inflation data. It's put a little pivot swing in here, looking a little bit softer towards its S1. Also, we've got the daily pivot here untouched, and beautiful flag towards that daily pivot, so there's some scope for that. That's probably about one of the best opportunities this morning at the moment. US dollar yen really not doing a great deal on the bigger time frames here. You just quite rangy. I wouldn't be surprised to see the dollar strengthening against the yen further overall. It wasn't what I was expecting initially. I thought we were going to see a continuation to the downside, but it just, with the more recent conversations, etc., it's not really helped it a lot. And as I said, I just think we could, it's very unlikely we're going to see any change in policy even back in August, September by looks of things. And well, the markets were hanging on some change of policy, and it's so we could see the continuation to the upside of that. Aussie, as I already mentioned, it was helped by the employment data. Had been selling off quite nicely within this range, but not necessarily the most trustworthy range. It started looking quite decent there yesterday. Bounced off its 50 initially, then danced around it for a while. Little divergence in the lows there. That's broken through with the news. I don't have great hopes for the Aussie from a fundamental aspect, but technically at the moment we're seeing it doing better than many of its peers, and pushing it as the standout currency this morning. US dollar CAD, with the CAD still erring its way down. It was I was looking at this yesterday. It in fact took the trade. It broke the lows of its prior lows there, continued running off there, but he's not really going massively at the moment. The original lows I was looking for triggered those, and then danced around for the rest of the day. For now, it's already down to its S2. Maybe it's still got some more scope. The pivots are pretty pinched, as you can see. but not necessarily a good place to enter from here. New Zealand dollar, well, it caught the coattails of the Aussie there and rallied at the same time, not as much, but it caught a bit of a rally. But again, rolling back a little bit at the moment. If these two both roll back, the New Zealand dollar may roll back further and quicker than the Aussie. US dollar Swiss, well, there seems to be little in the way of movement here. It's just continuing to run it back. It doesn't matter what sentiment bearish against it at the moment. The very fact that we're not seeing any significant moves here says it all for now. We need something to trigger the US dollar into some sort of strength, but at this stage I would steer well clear of this. I normally do, but I would especially steer well clear of this at the moment. I mean, the temptation is everyone wants to jump long, and all we keep seeing is short squeezes. Euro yen, well, it looks like there's potential more upside here across the time frames. I'm just looking, it's higher lows kicking through there. Hourly wise, it's gone ugly. It was looking better, but gone quite ugly, the euro yen. Maybe if it breaks back above the pivot here and the yen softening, even if the euro stays still against the dollar, the euro yen could get a kicker to the upside. Okay, there isn't much else I'm liking here. We sort of getting things like the euro pound moving. In fact, shape-wise, this is good. It's gone back within the original range. You could catch a part of that, I guess, leading into its R1 there. There's scope for that. It may be a bit late. It's like the pound's already sort of made its move to the downside. We'll see what develops here, but it's a nice pattern, or it was a nice pattern that's sort of triggered. Euro Aussie, well, same old story across most of these pairs here. Euro CAD's even Euro CAD's rolling over. This looks soft again and got more potential for downside. In fact, I quite like the look of this from the hourly picture. In fact, I like the overall look of it. The only thing is, daily wise, it's just that bit tougher. We could have a play on this possible leading through to next week, but maybe need to clear out of it by then. The pound pair's just struggling here, and nice shapes, etc. Never even got back to the pivot with the Canadian dollar. May see continuations of these as the pound's just selling generally across the board. Right, nothing else there for now. The indices, let's look at gold first, and just putting this up to the dailies. And gold, yes, they didn't really do too much, picking up a bit again this morning. It's a drift, and it's one of those drifts that you sort of look afterwards and it'll have drifted all the way up and you'll think, I missed that. It's a swing. Sitting in potential swing territory there at the moment. Again, this could change quite quickly next Wednesday, but for now it's trickling its way up there. I don't know if that's the right way to put trickling up, but it's running its way up there. Anyway, oil yesterday, well, it did trigger me a little 2 o'clocker, but we had the news coming out there that spoilt things with the oil numbers not coming in. It wasn't a major move, but gradually drifted off there. I will look for further upside at some point today. Again, I say some point around about 2 o'clock-ish time. There was opportunity to take some profit out of this yesterday, but personally I hadn't, so took a small loss on that one. But moving in the right sort of direction, I say right direction, within the trend. CSI 300, well, bearish, remains bearish, selling off to the lower side there. This looks pretty bearish overall. Expect further downside on that. The Nikkei being dragged back down yesterday, put his little hammer in there, or hanging man actually, but I get the feeling this might just slide back as well. It's not looking the best at the moment. The Nifty 50 continues to be my favourite in terms of, I say favourite, I should be careful how I use these words, but the most positive out there, and I think the most bullish in my book. Aussie 200 running into the prior highs here, taking a bit of a retracement. Not surprisingly, if jobs and everything are strong, the job market's as strong as it is, it's probably a sign that inflation could increase further, and that's not good for the equity markets. US 500. So good day yesterday, just pitched up there towards after the close. It's not been such good news, particularly in the tech stocks. We saw Netflix and Tesla both underperforming. Not major sell-offs here at the moment, but both maybe topping out a little bit. We're into its R3 territory here for the month. Maybe that's it. And of course we've got the news next week, so it might just stifle things here further. Dow Jones outshining a little bit there, but like the others, selling off a little bit at the moment, but we could see a continuation. Rest of the tech stocks may come out a little bit more positive, but it's not looked that great there. DAX is just disappointing here. It was looking like yesterday like it was going to get a bit more of a leg up even, and it's looking on the softer side of things again at the moment, so looking quite soft there. The FTSE benefiting from the lower interest rate potential there and pushing out their solid day yesterday. Again, it's just the effect of lower rates potential, or lesser rate increase. Shows you the effect on the equity markets here. Short term, really, it's taken its larger push there from that data yesterday. It's consolidating and slow at the moment, but potential to push on upwards. We're seeing the pound selling off here, so it could counter-react. Okay, that's pretty much it for me for this morning. I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.